The central dome of the Galactic Council shimmered with the gentle cerulean illumination of countless stellar cartographies. High Counselor Vex, his forearms linked behind him, observed with his prominent eyes a seemingly insignificant yellow star. "Magnify the third planet," he instructed. The holographic projection adjusted, presenting a blue-green sphere partially obscured by clouds. It appeared serene, yet the data adjacent to the image painted a contrasting narrative. "This is improbable," stated Lori, Vex's aide, her complexion shifting anxiously from its customary violet to a disconcerted gray. "The telemetry indicates a substantial surge in artificial satellites, and these energy signatures." She indicated the pulsating crimson points encircling the planet. Vex nodded slowly. "How much time has elapsed since our previous survey?" 50 standard cycles, Lori responded. At that juncture, they were still utilizing rudimentary combustion-based propulsion. They had not even reached their own satellite. The council chamber's entrance slid open, admitting 12 envoys from the galaxy's most influential species. They occupied their positions around the circular dais, their expressions displaying a range of apprehension. "Esteemed colleagues," Vex commenced, "we have identified anomalous activity emanating from Sufra, the planet its inhabitants refer to as Earth. Their technological advancement has abruptly exceeded all anticipated parameters." Elder Torah, the council's most senior member, his skin hanging in relaxed folds, leaned forward. "Display the visuals." The hologram expanded, showcasing imagery captured by their surveillance probes. Earth's orbit was now densely populated with satellites, many of which were clearly of martial design. On the surface, immense structures, identifiable as defensive fortifications, had materialized in isolated regions. "They are mobilizing for conflict," declared military advisor Dex, his tone a subdued rumble. "But against whom? They have had no interaction with any spacefaring civilization." Science Officer Ben, adjusting his respiration device, interjected, "Most disconcerting is this." He gestured, and the hologram presented a squadron of rudimentary, yet remarkably sophisticated, spacecraft departing from Earth's moon. They have constructed a lunar outpost and are now venturing outward. These vessels are armed. A murmur propagated throughout the assembly. "Transmit the intercepted communications," Vex ordered. The chamber was filled with the sonances of human vocalizations, deciphered by their systems. "Perimeter defense satellites are operational. Jupiter outpost confirms all systems nominal. Deep space radar has not identified any further signals, but we maintain defense condition 2. The Mars colony has finalized its protective grid. Earth Command verifies our readiness for the arrival. Silence enveloped the council as the recording concluded. "The arrival?" inquired Ambassador Will, her refined features contorted in bewilderment. "What arrival do they anticipate?" Vex shook his head. "Uncertain. But they evidently believe an entity is approaching, a hostile one." "Could another species have made contact without our awareness?" queried Torah. "Improbable," Dex responded. "We monitor all transmissions within this sector." Lori advanced. "High Counselor, there is further information. Our long-range sensors have identified human vessels traversing beyond their solar system. They are substantially armed and navigating information." The hologram shifted again, displaying the unrefined yet effective human ships venturing into the interstellar void. "This contravenes all our paradigms of species progression," Ben stated, his voice exhibiting a slight tremor. "They have accomplished in decades what should have required centuries." Vex scrutinized the images, his thoughts racing. The Council had consistently adhered to a doctrine of non-interference with developing worlds. Contact was only initiated when a species attained specific technological and societal benchmarks. Earth had been nowhere near that criterion during their previous survey. "They are behaving as if they anticipate an imminent invasion," Vex finally stated. "The query is, by whom? And why do they believe they must preemptively strike?" The council members exchanged worried glances as the hologram continued to track the human ships, steadily extending outward like soldiers commencing their march to battle. "Whatever they are preparing for," Torah stated gravely, I apprehend we may all find ourselves entangled in the midst of it. 3 days following the urgent convocation, the council reassembled. This time, intelligence officer Marcus occupied the chamber's center, his slender physique rigid with apprehension as he prepared his analysis. Honored council members, Marcus commenced, I have scrutinized myriad human communications. My discoveries are unsettling. The holographic projection illuminated with depictions of human news transmissions, military communiques, and civic proclamations, all rendered into standard galactic vernacular. The humans are convinced they are on the cusp of an invasion by hostile extraterrestrials, Marcus conveyed. High Counselor Vex leaned forward. But that is inconceivable. No species has intentions of approaching Earth. Precisely, Marcus responded. Yet their entire planet has unified against this illusory adversary. Observe. The hologram showcased human leaders standing united, nations that were once adversaries now collaborating. Military processions displayed armaments designed explicitly for space combat. Children participated in emergency preparedness exercises in educational institutions. What transpired? Inquired Ambassador Will. What induced this conviction? Marcus manipulated a control interface, and a new image materialized, a blurred depiction of a slender, gray entity with prominent black eyes. This imagery is ubiquitous within their culture. They refer to these entities as Greys. Numerous humans allege these beings visited Earth and abducted humans for examination. The humans dread their return. Elder Tora's eyes widened. That form, it resembles no council species. No, Marcus concurred. But the description corresponds to records of the extinct Vok species. They perished over 300 cycles prior. Science Officer Ben advanced to examine the image more closely. The Vok were known for their extensive explorations. Could they have visited Earth before their extinction? If they did, military advisor Dex interjected, they contravened council law by interfering with a developing world. Lori, who had been analyzing data at her console, spoke up. New intelligence, High Counselor. Human vessels have been detected in proximity to the Proxima system. They appear to be constructing a military outpost. The chamber fell silent. Proxima was a mere 4 light-years from Earth, practically adjacent by galactic metrics, yet it was the first system beyond their own that humans had accessed. We must initiate contact, Vex resolved. Elucidate that no invasion is forthcoming. With respect, Dex interjected, that would be perilous. They are in a war-ready posture. They might engage a council vessel before we can offer an explanation. I concur, stated Elder Tora. And our protocol is unequivocal, no contact until a species attains the requisite developmental stage. But they are circumventing those stages, Ben countered. Their technology is progressing in unprecedented ways. Observe. The display shifted to depict a human vessel. Its design was angular and unrefined by council standards, but sensors disclosed something extraordinary. Their propulsion system, Ben elucidated, is unlike anything in our archives. They have cultivated a divergent technological trajectory, focused on velocity and potency rather than efficiency. How is this feasible? R inquired. Fear, Marcus responded succinctly. Their entire civilization has been molded by the conviction that they must defend themselves. Every scientific advancement, every resource, has been directed toward that objective. Vex stood and ambulated around the dais, scrutinizing the images of human ships and outposts. This alters everything, he stated definitively. We cannot disregard them, but contact could prove disastrous. At that instant, Lori gasped. High Counselor. A human scout vessel has just traversed within 2 units of our surveillance post in their system. They should not have possessed the capacity to detect it. Our stealth technology is ineffective against whatever scanning methodology they are employing, Ben concluded, his voice imbued with incredulity. They observed our post. The council members exchanged alarmed gazes. What will their response be? R murmured. Dex's countenance hardened. If they genuinely believe they are imminently threatened with invasion, and they have just detected an alien presence monitoring their planet, they will perceive it as validation of their apprehensions. We may have inadvertently become the adversary they have been preparing to confront, Vex stated grimly. The holographic projection blinked crimson as an alarm resounded. The human scout ship had altered its trajectory, heading directly toward the observation post. The observation post crew barely managed to evacuate. Their vessel, damaged by weaponry that should not have possessed the capacity to penetrate their protective barriers, limped back to Council space. In the subsequent urgent session, the atmosphere was somber. Science Officer Ben, his hands trembling, presented his discoveries to the Council. The human armaments are unconventional, he conveyed. They do not employ standard energy beams or plasma. They discharge physical projectiles, but at such phenomenal velocities that they function almost like energy weapons. Primitive, scoffed military advisor Dex. No, Ben rectified. Divergent. Our shields are engineered to deflect energy assaults. These physical projectiles traversed directly through. High Counselor Vex scrutinized the damage assessments. How could they cultivate such technology with such rapidity? That is precisely what I have been analyzing, Ben responded. He gestured, and a new hologram materialized, a timeline of human technological advancement. Observe this surge following the purported visitation by the VOC. Their progress accelerated dramatically. It is as though they reverse-engineered some technology they observed. Impossible, Elder Torah declared. No nascent species could comprehend VOC technology, let alone replicate it. They did not replicate it, Ben elucidated. They developed countermeasures against it. Their entire technological trajectory is predicated on vanquishing what they observed, and in doing so, they have devised systems we never contemplated. Lori advanced with supplementary data. There is additional information. Human ships have been detected in proximity to 3 additional border systems. They navigate in seemingly erratic patterns, altering course unpredictably, separating into smaller groups, then reassembling. Our tracking systems can scarcely follow them. It is a search pattern, Dex comprehended. They are seeking something, or someone. The council chamber's entrance slid open, and a courier hastened in. He whispered something to Vex, whose expression grew even more grave. The human scout ship has obliterated our surveillance post, Vex announced. No casualties, as the crew had already evacuated. But the humans salvaged components of our technology before its destruction. A collective gasp resonated through the chamber. Display their current capabilities, Elder Torah requested. Ben complied, bringing up fresh imagery. The human ships, now visible, were larger than before, bristling with weaponry. Their designs remained rudimentary in comparison to Council vessels but were clearly effective. This one is disconcerting, Ben stated, highlighting a particular ship. It appears to employ a form of stealth technology, dissimilar to ours. It does not refract light or absorb energy, instead, it emulates natural space phenomena. Our sensors would register it as an asteroid or gaseous nebula. How many of these vessels do they possess? Dex inquired. Uncertain, Ben admitted. But their production capacity is remarkable. They have transmuted entire asteroids into mobile fabrication facilities. Their colony on Mars is now a colossal military installation. Ambassador Ark shook her head in disbelief. All this for an invasion that is not occurring, unless, Elder Torah stated slowly, we become that invasion. If they believe we are these Greys returned, they will strike without hesitation. Vex paced the chamber, his forearms clasped tightly behind his back. We require a more profound comprehension of their capabilities before determining our subsequent course of action. As if in response, the primary display flickered and altered. A human ship had materialized near one of the Council's peripheral research stations. It was transmitting a communique, the first direct communication from humans to any Council facility. The message was concise, in the human language designated English, but the Council's translators rendered it instantaneously. Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Ship Thunder. You are within restricted space. Identify yourselves, or we will initiate hostilities, dash. The council stared at the message in stunned silence. The humans had located one of their facilities independently and were now demanding explanations. They should not have possessed the capacity to reach that station with such celerity, Dex whispered. Our swiftest vessels would require double the time. It appears, Vex stated gravely, that we have significantly underestimated these humans. The council deliberated for hours. Some advocated disregarding the human ship's message, others proposed its destruction as a cautionary measure. Ultimately, Ambassador R's proposition prevailed. We should engage in discourse with them, she asserted. Elucidate that we harbor no hostile intentions. And so, a diplomatic vessel was dispatched, the Swift Wind Dash, commanded by Captain Kev, an experienced diplomat from R's own species. His objective was straightforward: establish amicable contact and rectify the misapprehension. 3 days later, the Swift Wind approached the human ship, Thunder, near the research station. The council observed the transmission in strained silence. Earth vessel, Captain Kev commenced, his translator converting his utterances into English, we arrive in peace. We are not your adversaries. We desire discourse. For an extended interval, there was no response. Then, a human visage materialized on the screen, a male with swarthy skin and piercing eyes. His uniform bore insignia of rank. This is Captain Rex of the Earth Defense Force, he stated. State your identity and objective within this sector. Captain Kev smiled in what he hoped was a conciliatory gesture. We are emissaries of the Galactic Council, a coalition of peaceable species. We have been observing Earth from a distance, as is our protocol with developing worlds. The human's expression hardened. So you concede you have been surveilling us? Not surveilling, Kev rectified swiftly. Observing. We intend no harm. In fact, we arrived to elucidate that the invasion you apprehend is not forthcoming. There exists no threat to Earth. Captain Rex's eyes narrowed. You are cognizant of the invasion threat? How opportune that you manifest now, precisely as our deep space sensors identified multiple unidentified objects approaching our peripheral colonies. Kev appeared bewildered. What objects? We have detected nothing. Sufficient prevarication, Rex snapped. We have been preparing for your return for generations. You believe we would not recognize your vessels? Before Kev could respond, alarms blared on both vessels. Captain! Kev's sensor officer exclaimed. New contacts. 3 vessels have just emerged from behind the research station. The council chamber erupted in consternation. Those are not our vessels, Dex declared. Who are they? On the screen, Captain Rex was bellowing directives. All armaments online. They are employing the identical stratagem as before, attempting to divert us while their primary force advances. No, Kev implored. Those are not affiliated with us. We must investigate collaboratively. His words were truncated as the Thunder discharged a fusillade of projectiles toward the Swift Wind Dash. The diplomatic vessel, designed for scientific and communicative purposes, possessed minimal shielding. Evasive maneuvers. Kev commanded. The Swift Wind barely escaped, its propulsion systems damaged. As they limped away, they observed in horror as the Thunder engaged the enigmatic new vessels. Back in the council chamber, silence descended as the feed from the Swift Wind stabilized. Captain Kev's countenance was ashen. High Counselor, he reported, the diplomatic mission has been unsuccessful. The humans engaged us without provocation. They are convinced we are the invaders they have been anticipating. And the other vessels? Vex inquired. Unidentified, Kev responded. They did not correspond to any council design. They fled when the humans attacked. Elder Torah massaged his lined visage. This alters everything. The humans have now perpetrated an act of aggression against the council. They were defending themselves, are contended. They believed we were deceiving them. Military advisor Dex slammed his fist upon the dais. Intent is irrelevant. They engaged a diplomatic vessel under Council aegis. We must respond with force, or others will believe they can emulate their actions. Vex raised his hands for quietude. We require additional intelligence before reaching a decision, particularly concerning these enigmatic vessels. Could they be the actual catalyst for the human apprehensions? As the council debated, Lori approached Vex with a concerned expression. High Counselor, she stated quietly, we have detected additional human ships in proximity to 7 distinct council worlds. They are expanding more rapidly than we deemed feasible. Vex scrutinized the data in disbelief. The situation was spiraling beyond control. Whatever we decide, he stated grimly, we must decide expeditiously. 3 weeks following the abortive diplomatic mission, Marcus burst into the council chamber, foregoing the customary protocol of requesting entry. His typically meticulous appearance was disheveled, and he clutched a data pad with trembling hands. High Counselor, he gasped. I have discovered it. I comprehend the identity of the Greys. The council members, engrossed in a discourse regarding escalating human activity near their borders, fell silent. Elucidate, Vex commanded. Marcus activated his data pad, and archaic imagery materialized in the holographic projection. They depicted tall, slender entities with gray skin and prominent black eyes, precisely matching the human depiction. These are from our historical archives, Marcus stated. They were designated the Voidborn. They became extinct over 500 years prior. Elder Torah leaned forward, his eyes wide. The Voidborn? But they were adversaries of the Council. Marcus completed. They experimented on countless species before our eventual triumph over them. Science Officer Ben examined the visuals, so, the humans genuinely experienced visitation by extraterrestrials? They had been preparing to combat the Voidborn's return. And upon observing our surveillance posts, Ambassador Will added, they assumed us to be either the Voidborn or a related entity to them. Vex concluded. Lori presented supplementary data. This elucidates their technology. Observe these human armaments. They are explicitly engineered to counteract Voidborn technology, the projectile weaponry, the unconventional stealth systems. The humans have been preparing to combat our archaic adversary, Dex stated, his voice tinged with newfound respect, without even being cognizant of our existence. The council chamber's entrance opened once more, and a communications officer entered. High Counselor, we have intercepted a transmission from the human vessel, Thunder Dash. Following their encounter with our diplomatic vessel and the unidentified vessels, they returned to Earth with technological fragments from both. What have they ascertained? Vex inquired. Their scientists discern distinctions between the two, the officer responded. They now believe there are 2 discrete extraterrestrial species operating within their territory, one that corresponds to their historical records of the Greys, and another, unidentified group. Murmurs propagated throughout the chamber. That corroborates our own findings, Ben stated. We have analyzed the sensor readings from the Swift Wind Dash. The vessels that manifested during the diplomatic mission correspond to archaic Voidborn designs, but with modifications. Impossible, Elder Torah whispered. We eradicated them centuries ago. Perhaps not all of them, Marcus posited. A remnant could have survived. Vex paced the chamber, cogitating rapidly. If some Voidborn survived, and they are returning to human space, then the humans were correct all along, are completed. An invasion is imminent, merely not originating from us. The implication struck the Council like a physical blow. Humans had been preparing, for centuries, to combat the Voidborn. Their unconventional technological trajectory had rendered them formidable in ways the Council had never anticipated. We must disseminate this intelligence to the humans, are urged. Demonstrate that we are not their adversary. Following their assault upon our vessel? Dex objected. They perpetrated an act of aggression. Against what they perceived as their adversary, are countered. We would have responded similarly. Vex scrutinized the holographic projection, where images of human and void-born ships rotated languidly. The resemblance between Council surveillance vessels and archaic void-born scout ships was unsettling. It is unsurprising they were mistrustful, he stated quietly. From their perspective, we resemble the very threat they have dreaded for generations. A sudden alert interrupted their discourse. The primary screen shifted to display multiple diminutive vessels materializing near one of the human colonies. Their design was unmistakable to the Council historians present. Void-born assault craft, Elder Torah stated, his voice hollow. They have returned. Vex observed as human defenders scrambled to intercept the attackers. We must reach a decision, he stated resolutely. Do we remain passive observers, or do we assist the humans in combating our shared, archaic adversary? The incursion on the human colony was merely the prelude. Over the subsequent days, void-born vessels materialized near 4 additional human settlements. Each time, human defenders responded with astonishing efficacy, but they were manifestly being tested. Within the council chamber, debate raged. Military advisor Dex advocated securing council worlds initially. Ambassador Will championed an immediate alliance with the humans. Others proposed awaiting the outcome to ascertain the victor. Enough, Vex declared finally. I have reached my determination. I will journey to Earth myself. The chamber erupted in protest. It is excessively perilous, Elder Torah objected. They might terminate you upon sight. Conceivably, Vex conceded. But if we do not act presently, we may confront the Voidborn in isolation subsequently. Humans have been preparing for this conflict for generations. We require their assistance as much as they require ours. Despite persistent objections, preparations commenced. A diminutive, unarmed vessel was prepared for Vex and a small delegation, including R, Marcus, and Ben. As a gesture of trust, they would approach Earth openly, foregoing stealth. As they neared human space, Lori contacted them from Council headquarters. The situation has escalated, she reported. Several minor Council species, apprehensive of human expansion, have initiated assaults against human outposts. Vex's heart sank. Which species? The Moors Collective and the Ganto Federation, Lori responded. They acted without Council authorization. What was the human response? R inquired anxiously. Lori's expression was grim. Overwhelming. The humans did not merely defend, they counterattacked. 3 Moors worlds are presently under human occupation. So expeditiously? Dex inquired. Shocked. How many vessels did they dispatch? That is the astonishing facet, Lori stated. Only a few. Their tactics were unanticipated. They targeted communication systems initially, followed by power grids. The Moors capitulated within hours. The council members exchanged worried glances. Humans were even more formidable than they had apprehended. As their vessel approached Earth's solar system, they received a transmission, a formal caution from Earth Defense Command to identify themselves or face annihilation. This is High Counselor Vex of the Galactic Council, Vex responded. We arrive unarmed and seek amicable discourse concerning our shared adversary, the Voidborn. Following a tense interval, they received coordinates for landing, not on Earth itself, but on their lunar outpost, a manifest precaution. Upon landing, they were met by heavily armed soldiers and escorted to an subterranean facility. There, they confronted a panel of human leaders, including the stern-faced man introduced as Admiral Tom, head of Earth's United Defense Council. So, Admiral Tom said. You contend you are not affiliated with the Greys, or Voidborn, as you designate them? We are not, Vex affirmed. The Voidborn were adversaries of the Council centuries ago. We presumed them extinct, until now. Admiral Tom scrutinized him meticulously. Yet your surveillance vessels bear a striking resemblance to their scout vessels. A disconcerting coincidence, Vex conceded. Numerous Council designs were adapted from captured Voidborn technology following the war. Science Officer Ben presented historical records depicting the archaic conflict between the Council and the Voidborn. Marcus proffered intelligence regarding Voidborn vulnerabilities. As the humans reviewed the information, Vex seized the opportunity to survey his surroundings. Despite the martial nature of the outpost, he observed indications of artistry on the walls, paintings of terrestrial landscapes. In one corner, a young human played a musical instrument for off-duty soldiers. "Your people are more than warriors," Vex observed. Admiral Tom's expression softened slightly. "We never aspired to be warriors at all. We constructed all this," he gestured around the outpost, "because we believed we possessed no alternative. And now, stated gently, we both confront the identical adversary." Admiral Tom nodded slowly. "The Voidborn have assaulted 7 of our colonies now. We are repelling them, but their technology is progressing. It is as though they are assimilating knowledge from each engagement. That was invariably their forte," Elder Torah stated gravely. "Adaptation." Admiral Tom regarded Vex with renewed intensity. "So, High Counselor, what precisely are you proposing?" "An alliance," Vex stated succinctly. "Your technology and tactics against the Voidborn, amalgamated with our comprehension of the galaxy." Admiral Tom reclined in his chair. "You assaulted our vessels." "We did not," rectified gently. "You initiated hostilities, believing we were the adversary." "And the Moors and Ganto incursions?" inquired a woman introduced as General Pat. "Not sanctioned by the Council," Vex assured them. "Those species acted out of apprehension. We extend our apologies for their transgressions." A tense silence permeated the chamber. Then, a younger human advanced, a scientist named Jack, who had been scrutinizing the Council's historical records. "Admiral," Jack stated, "their information corroborates our own discoveries. The technological fragments we retrieved from both vessel types exhibit discernible distinctions, and observe here," he pointed to archaic images of the Voidborn, "these correspond precisely to our historical records." Admiral Tom studied the evidence, then regarded Vex. "What do you propose specifically?" "Firstly, intelligence dissemination," Vex responded. "Complete transparency regarding our capabilities and the Voidborn threat. Secondly, coordinated defense of both human and Council worlds. Thirdly, a collaborative endeavor to eradicate the Voidborn menace permanently." The human leaders conferred privately. Then Admiral Tom nodded. "We concur in principle, but trust must be cultivated. We shall commence with intelligence dissemination exclusively." It was a commencement. Over the subsequent days, humans and Council emissaries exchanged data on Voidborn encounters and defensive capabilities. The humans were particularly intrigued by the archaic war that had ostensibly concluded the Voidborn threat. "You believed you eradicated them entirely?" General Pat inquired. "We did," Elder Torah affirmed. "But it appears some persisted, concealed perhaps in deep space. And now they have returned, more potent than before." Science Officer Ben collaborated closely with human engineers, marveling at their innovations. "Your methodology concerning technology diverges entirely from ours," he conveyed to Jack. "You concentrate on overwhelming force and redundancy, while we prioritize efficiency and precision." "We constructed for conflict," Jack elucidated. "You constructed for tranquility. But in conjunction." "In conjunction, we may be indomitable," Ben concluded. The alliance was tested sooner than anticipated. 5 days following the initial conference, a colossal Voidborn fleet materialized near Jupiter. Both human and Council vessels mobilized to intercept. The Galactic Council observed the battle from their chamber, via a direct feed from Vex's vessel. For the first time, they witnessed humans in combat against their archaic adversary. It was a revelation. Human ships maneuvered in ways Council tacticians had never contemplated, exploiting Jupiter's gravity and radiation belts to their advantage. They deployed decoys that bewildered Voidborn sensors. Their weaponry, rudimentary yet effective, tore through enemy shields designed to withstand more sophisticated assaults. Functioning in concert with the human fleet, Council vessels furnished targeting data and protective screens. The amalgamated force repelled the Void-born, compelling them to retreat. When the battle concluded, Admiral Tom contacted the Council directly, the first official communication between Earth and the galactic governing body. High Council, he stated formally, today we combated collaboratively against a shared adversary. We propose this cooperation persist. Elder Torah, functioning as spokesperson in Vex's absence, responded with commensurate formality. The Council concurs. We extend an invitation to Earth to dispatch emissaries to our chambers to deliberate regarding full membership within the Galactic Alliance. The Council members observed in astonishment as jubilation erupted among the human crew depicted on the transmission. These beings, whom they had apprehended as potential invaders, were celebrating the prospect of joining a peaceable galactic community. 2 months later, as human emissaries occupied their positions within the Council chamber for the first time, Vex reflected upon the peculiar odyssey. The Galactic Council had observed in consternation as humans prepared for an invasion, never envisioning that this preparation would ultimately serve as their salvation. Welcome, Vex stated to Admiral Tom and his delegation, to a nascent epoch of collaboration.